Hi guys, welcome to our first lesson on how to write a thesis. Now, I just want to address first that setting up a proper thesis is something that you would need to know for any type of AP FRQ or just piece of writing in general that you would need to suggest your own argument or reasoning. Now, the beginning to a good solid argument is a good thesis and proper contextualization, and it's good to know how to properly do it, especially considering that AP World History is probably your first AP class that you take in DIS. My point is, learning it properly now will save you so much time and effort when you take other AP classes or English classes in the future. So, that being said, how do I write a good thesis and what is it exactly? Well, you can think about a thesis as your main argument. Basically, just one or two sentences as the main point of your entire argument. As a simple example that I've prepared over here, let's try and think about trying to convince your parents that you want to go hang out with your friends an hour or two past your short curfew. And you could say, Mom or Dad, my curfew is too short. Okay, that does wrap up what you want to say. Essentially, you want to say that you want to extend your curfew longer. But the thing is, the previous sentence isn't really specific enough. You're not really stating your main reasons why it's too short, and thus your argument loses any clarity or strength. It just really sounds more like a complaint. But remember, a complaint or emotionally heated rant is completely different from a nuanced, well written argument, which is what the AP readers are asking for. But most importantly, you're not explicitly or directly stating that you want to change your curfew. You're just kind of hinting at it. All right, so basically, here are the things that you should remember to make a good thesis statement, and I highly suggest writing this down somewhere or just taking notes. The first is that it should be clear and concise, around one or two sentences, maybe three. Don't try to write more than that because obviously you'll get more into the details throughout the rest of your essay. And two, again, you should be specific and explicit with what you are trying to say. You shouldn't be beating around the bush. AP exam readers read thousands of papers during the summer, they have a strict due date, and one person has to submit around three FRQs, technically five if you consider the three SAQs that you need to write. Always be very clear and explicit with what you are stating. All right. So, that being said, here are a couple of good examples um, that I've prepared for us to look at. Now, admittedly, these prompts that we'll be looking at are from AP US History, but the reason why I prepared a more Amerocentric prompt and obviously Amerocentric responses is because I thought that preparing a more specific prompt will help you kind of grasp the idea. AP World History is obviously a little bit more general, and thus the prompts are a little bit more general. So, to just look at how to write a good thesis in general first, I prepared an American prompt. Okay, with that cleared out of the way, let's go through this together. The prompt is evaluate the extent of change in ideas about American independence from 1763 to 1783. If you're not completely sure what extent of change means in AP World History or other, similar wording uh, that suggests a similar idea to that, don't worry about that. We'll get into that later. But for now, let's look at all the good examples. The first one says, from 1763 to 1783, colonial ideas about American independence changed from just questioning British policies to calling for revolution. The second one says, from 1763 to 1783, colonial ideas about American independence did not change much because, throughout the period, many colonists continued to oppose the Patriot cause. All right, pause if you need to take this all in and read it by yourself one more time again. But having looked at the good examples, let's look at some bad examples that you should, try to avoid. The first one is from 1763 to 1783. Ideas about American independence changed after Americans started to feel rebellious towards British colonialism. Or the second is from 1763 to 1783. Ideas about American independence weren't greatly perceived. Okay, but what's exactly wrong with these? I mean, yes, they are both stating something, but the problem is that it isn't arguing anything specific. The prompt, no matter what it is about, will always ask you to, use specific events that you can use to prove your point about what the prompt is asking for. So basically, these bad examples are bad because they're not really stating a specific historical event or hinting at something, and most importantly, they're not specifically explaining what their argument is briefly going to be about. Let's take a look at the good examples again. Notice how they all state the who, what, when, where, and why. The first good example is specific enough because it addresses all the 5 W's, and so does the second one. To be completely honest, the second one is a bit of the better one of the two because it's even more specific and it's more explicit. It outrightly says, did not change because so and so. Alright, so to conclude for now, and please take notes, your thesis must be short, clear, and direct. And you must address the who, what, when, where, and why, or how of an issue. We'll get more into that in the next video. But for now, this is just a short introduction to the basics and fundamentals of a good thesis. I feel like this is probably a lot being thrown at you if you're not used to writing a thesis, especially in an AP class. So just take this all in, really understand it, and then when you're ready, go watch the second video to this module to learn more about how to write a good thesis. I'll see you around.